Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to another Average Fisherman video. And today we're covering the final part of the how to locate bass offshore and catch giant bass, possibly even your personal best during the summertime months. So without further ado, let's dive into today's video. Welcome back everybody. And today we're going to be covering the last part of our series of how to locate bass offshore and catch giant bass and even that personal best during the summertime. What we're going to be covering today is the hard map version. As you can see, I'm kind of holding this. I know it's blurring out a little bit. I'm sorry. It's my background. But there we go. There we go. Right there. As you can see, this is a hard map. And this is the Sam Rayburn Reservoir fishing hotspots map. You can pick these up at any of your local fishing stores or tackle stores that you have around you. You can get them at your local Walmart. You can even get them online. And this is really a dying type of way to go and locate fish. We all know with all the wonderful technology that we have out there, which we covered in our first two videos, which I'd like to recap on that. If you haven't seen those videos, they're going to be at the end of this video, and you can click on them and go back and catch yourself up. The first one we covered in part one, we covered how to go out and utilize your electronics with your mapping, chip cards, or whatever you use. And then we talked about how to utilize your graphs to help you set up and your technology to help you set up on those fish. And we also included a lot of really important tips that not a lot of people think about offshore. You know, the different type of season, wind, those type weather conditions. We talked about all of that. Current, whether it's a river system or they're generating power on your lake, that means drawing water. We covered all of that in those first two videos. So if you haven't seen them, please go check them out. It'll help you become a better angler offshore, because that is the number one reason I did these videos, is because so many people reach out to me and say, I just can't get offshore. I don't have Garmin. I don't have a 360. I don't have none of this stuff. And that's what we're talking about today. So like I said, that map, you can get those anywhere. And what I like to tell you all is that this is something that you should always keep in your boat, regardless if you have the money for technology and all those wonderful things that we talked about in these videos, or you don't. Technology will fail, and it's not a matter of can it, it's a matter of when it will fail. Okay. When I was in the military, I used to teach all my soldiers that, yeah, all this wonderful technology we have, like, with, chart plotters, and Garmin, GPS systems, that help you navigate all over the world. That they're great. They're great tools to help you be successful. But the number one thing I used to teach my soldiers is you better know how to use a compass and how to do it old school, because batteries die, things happen, things break, things, get lost. And if you don't have a good traditional hard map, you're going to find yourself in a world of hurt. That's fact. So what I mean by that, how I translate that to life and fishing, if you're out on a body of water that you've never been on before, and you get out there and your batteries die or your electronics take a big old fat doo-doo on you and you can't get them to go back on, and you're not sure where you're at, but you do know your last location, you can utilize a hard map. And I always keep one in my boat for any occasion that might arise just like that. At least with a hard map, you have an idea of where you went already. And as long as you have an idea of where you went already, you can locate yourself on the map, and you can start getting yourself to an area where you can either get somebody to help you and point you in the right direction, or you can do it yourself by utilizing the hard map and the land markers that are around you. And what I mean by that is just about every lake you go to, you have marinas or, state parks. And you could look at that map and use it as a reference to get you back to where you need to be. Also, too, what I want to talk about, these hard maps. You can do a lot of wonderful pre-scouting on a lake before you even go out. Now, I provided you with a tool that, as long as you have the internet or you have cell phone service, you can pull up navionics.com and you can utilize their free chart viewer while you're going down the lake, and you can utilize that anytime to help you scout and look for new fishing spots. So always keep a hard map on there. And on the hard maps, there's wonderful things you could look at, and you could go back, and they have creek channels. They have a lot of times the hot spots. A lot of times they include man-made fishing structures that are, fish attractants, where a lot of times the Corps of Engineers or the state park or whatever have dropped man-made fish attractants, whether it be in the form of PVC, brush piles, rock that, when they were constructing the lake, they've dropped it all, dropped off in certain locations to help attract fish. It's got a lot of that useful information on there. And it also has a lot of useful information on, a lot of them have boating lanes and buoys and things of that nature. They have the same type of definition that a map card has. It's not as detailed to within a foot contour lines, but it does give you a general idea. Okay. So if you're taking your map, and let's say that's what we're covering today. We don't have any technology, but we're going to assume at least most boats these days have down imaging and some type of map on them. But if you've only got sonar and let's just say down imaging, and you really don't have any kind of mapping on your graph, that's okay, because we can take this hard map right here. And if I know I put in at a certain location, and I'm going to run up until I see this point, then I know where I'm at on the map in general. Okay. So if I take off at Humphreys Pavilion, and I've did a good pre-study on my map beforehand, I know I'm going to see some islands when I first come out of Humphreys Pavilion on Sam Rayburn. And then as you start heading north on the lake, because the lake sets north and south, you're going to have the main arm in front of you, which is the main lake, and then you're going to have two separate arms to the right. And I can see that by just looking at my map, and I can break down what area of the lake that I would like to go fish. Now, the catch is you really have to be very familiar with the map as you're going down the lake, because you're not going to pull out your map while you're running, 50, 60 miles an hour and try to look at it. You'll have to stop, kind of look at it. And what I like to tell everybody is like, I went past those islands back there, and you're looking at the, layout of the lake. You're looking around you, as you can kind of see right back in the background that I've got. Okay. You can see behind me here that's an arm. And then way up there, that's another arm of the lake, because that is Sam Rayburn Reservoir behind me. And you can utilize that map by looking like, oh, there's that point. Oh, there's that point on the map right here. And you could determine what's in that area. All the drains, ditches, drop-offs, ledges, everything that we showed you in our first video. Now, what you do is, if you pick an area on the map and you've reached that point and you're in that area, there's something that I would like to tell everybody that is old school and people still use it to this day. It's called a marker, a buoy marker. It's orange, and I should have went and dug one out of my stuff to show you guys, so that's my fault, but everybody kind of knows what I'm talking about already. It's just an orange marker that's got fishing line or trout line attached to it, and it's got a big lead weight on it. And it's a buoy, and when you throw it out, it starts rolling and flipping, and that line starts coming undone until it hits the bottom. And it's going to stay there, and it's going to mark whatever you want it to mark. So when you're idling around, and let's say that you've used your map and you've determined that you want to fish this long, hard point that sticks out, and you're idling just like we talked about in those techniques, back and forth, like I showed you, and you're using your sonar, and you mark some fish on your down imaging or sonar, then you want to immediately have that buoy in your hand, and you want to just flip it over right there by the side of your boat. Not throw it way out, just flip it right over the side of the boat. Just drop it right there, because that's going to give you an idea of where to start casting. Okay. And what I mean by that is traditionally what everybody does now is I put a waypoint down, I go past it a little ways, I spin around, I get on the front of my boat, I utilize the my console in the front, and I'm easing up to it with my waypoints like we talked about. Well, I can do the same thing with that buoy. I can turn around, I can ease up to it with my trolling motor, get within casting distance, and start casting around that buoy where I marked fish with my sonar. Okay. And the biggest thing, what I'll tell you is is probably everybody's wondering right now, well, how do I know what's down there if I don't have all this technology? Well, I'm going to tell you, when I was a kid and when I was growing up, I remember my dad still had a flasher on his 1986 Astroglass. And then when he finally got a Humminbird, you just had sonar. The number one thing we use to utilize to find out what's down there, what type of bottom it is a Carolina rig. We always rigged up either a 1/2 ounce sinker or a 3/4 ounce sinker. And 9 times out of 10, the first time we'd be doing the first thing we would do is cast out there and just drag really slow and get a good feel for the bottom, the bottom of the lake, the composition of the lake, whether it be chunk rock, pea gravel, and you can feel all of that with a Carolina rig. And, you just have to be more cognizant and aware of what you're feeling on your rod. And then what I used to do is if I cast it to an area and I felt it go from like really hard ridgy to like maybe pea gravel or rock, I would look up at the bank and I'd be like, okay, I'm casting right in line with that boat motor, or right in line with that dead tree, or right in line with that bare spot in the bank. And I'd keep making casts like that because we know fish set up on different transitions. Or if I got bit, I was always aware of, I'd look up real quick and see where I got bit at, what I was in line with, and I'd try to make that same cast every time. So it is absolutely possible for you to do it. It's not impossible. It's just improbable that, you'll be right on top of the fish as much as if you had that technology, but you can still do it. And that, a lot of the times, that is some of the best spots that have ever been found by anglers, is utilizing a map and going to areas on that map and just feeling old school. And it took an immense amount of time to define those areas on the lake. And now everybody, you'll hear a lot of the old school anglers, go and say, well, back in my time, it took me years to find spots like this. Now guys and girls and kids and grown men go out and find them within a day because of the technology we have. But you can still do it with this map and a Carolina rig, Texas rig, jig. You can even do it with a crankbait and just kind of feel how hard everything is. And that's how you go out. And let's say you're done fishing that spot and you want to go to the next spot. You're going to sit down on your boat. You're going to pull out your map. You're like, I'm on this point right here. And you look up and you're going to go, okay, I want to go fish that point right there. And you look on the map like, okay, that's that point right there. And you drive up there and you rinse, wash, and repeat and do the same thing. Okay. So this video, no, it's not all fancy with me showing you a bunch of stuff, but I'm telling you, that's how you do it. Okay. A lot of times, let's say that I want to, utilize this map to run the lake. This is the caveat to that. Sam Rayburn has a lot of standing timber in it in certain areas on the lake. On these maps, not everything is listed on the map as far as the outline of, like, let's say Black Forest, okay? Or the forest that's north of the 147 bridge here on that lake, on this lake. It's not, there's no outline and clear defined mark. So where that comes into play is you safely running around and taking your time on the lake if you're not familiar with it. Another way you could do it is, everybody's got cell phones these days. I mean, that's a given. You pull out your cell phone or you get on YouTube, just like what I'm doing here with these videos, and you look up what is on the lake and how to run the lake, and you look up videos from other anglers explaining to you where it's safe to run, where it's not safe to run. I do get a ton of questions on my YouTube and Facebook page at Average Fisherman, #Chad Marler. And if you're here, you're already seeing it. And they ask me, Chad, is it safe to run at this area on the lake? Or is it safe to run at this area on the lake? And I try to help people out. But the number one thing I will tell you is that every lake has some type of boating lane card you can download. And it's either done by an angler or it's done by some type of company, and that's what they do. I know down here on Sam Rayburn, boatinglanes.com, you can go and actually get safe lanes to run on Sam Rayburn and over there on Toledo Bend. Now, what I'll tell you is it starts off at a certain ramp, and there's a yellow line that runs in a straight line all the way up on this side of the lake and on the east side, and et cetera. Just remember that is a lane that somebody has either idled or run themselves, and it's safe. Just because there's a yellow line there doesn't mean that you can't run that whole area of the lake safely. It's just a line where somebody ran, and that's where they ran safely. Okay, so do your research, do your homework, because I will tell you, when you're running Sam Rayburn, if you get up halfway around the beach area, there's some ones and twosies stobs sticking up in the middle of the lake that I see a lot of guys have no idea that's there when they come down for these tournaments, and they're running wide open, and they're really close to it. And there's a ton of videos out there. I will speak for Sam Rayburn specifically, that people have marked those GPS coordinates for you. Another thing you can do is, if you have social media, you could go to the local pages on Facebook for the lake, and you could ask a question to somebody. Hey, is there any spots I need to be aware of on this lake that are dangerous, etc.? And you're going to get some people that'll be haters, but you're going to find some useful people out there, because let's be honest, this world's full of hate more than it is caring anymore, unfortunately. But that's another video. So that is how I would break down doing the map. And right now behind me, you're going to see scrolling all my wonderful sponsors. And if you're still here and you're listening and getting value out of what I'm saying, please just hit subscribe on that little button down there in the right-hand corner where you see my face come up. If you click that, you can subscribe right now while you're in video. And please go check out my sponsors, as they are, the heart and soul of helping me get to where I want to be for my goals and my fishing tournament season. Actually, I should say tournament fishing season. So, and if you guys want to always be kept up to date with a new video that comes out from the Average Fisherman, make sure you turn on that little bell icon that you see. And that way, when I put up something new, you'll get notified of it, and you can stay up to date with the latest and greatest. And 9 times out of 10, you'll get it first before somebody that's not subscribed or has that bell on, and you could be ahead of the game. So let's jump back to the map. Okay. When I open this map up, okay, now that we've covered a good portion here, okay, this map breaks down very specific areas, and I'm going to look down instead of the camera for a minute. I'm going to tell you what's on it if you've never looked at one. It's got points of interest on the map. It gives you north latitude and west longitude. It gives you fishing hotspots that are on this map. And they're always indicated by, like, it's got a little circle, and it says ID, and they're numbered 1 through whatever. So if I look down right here, and this one is actually north of Caney Creek by Bayou Springs Creek, there is a fishing ID, and it's number 34. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look over here on the left-hand side where it says, fishing spots, and go down to 34. And it gives me the specific coordinates, that spot on the left side. Now, on the right side right here, okay, on my right, I'm going to look over here, and it says spot 34. What does it say? It says the vast area of vegetation known as the Black Forest is productive for all species throughout the year. Flipping and pitching finesse tubes into pockets will pull large crappie, largemouth, and other type. They worded that really, really weird. I would just like to say it like this: other types of species. But anyways, that being said, it tells you that you can use a beetle spin with a minnow to catch crappie in this area. It says that catfish can be located near the creek channel of the submerged road located in this area. And it also says that found throughout the area by fishing cut and prepared baits, you will catch catfish. Okay, so that tells me that area is a big catfish area with crappie. Okay, and then you could do this all over the map. All right, like I'm just going to look at number 23 over here, for instance. Okay, number 23, Big Flat Branch holds largemouth year-round and crappie from March through May. Texas rigged plastic worms and lizards work well for largemouth. Crappie should be fished with small beetle spins or a jig/minnow combo fished under a float. So a bobber. Okay. So you can literally use this map if you don't have technology and break down where you would like to go fish. Now, on this map, specifically on Sam Rayburn, there is the area that is located up there by the Black Forest, and it's got a bunch of red little areas on it. And when you look on your map legend on the right hand side, okay, and I would love to show you all this, but it would be really hard for me to take the camera, hold it down, and then commentate. So I just encourage everybody to, get on there and look at a map online. Go to the store and get one to put in your boat. Okay. But on that, it has a bunch of red little, basically arrow, or like it looks like a top of a triangle, and it tells you on your featured symbols that is flooded timber. Okay. And then it's also got roadbeds. It's got old ponds on there. It's got old railroad tracks in there. It's got vegetation. It's got all of the boat ramps listed. So this map has a plethora of information on it that you could just sit down and go through it and look. And it also, has an outline of the area, all the major roads that lead to the ramps. Okay. And on the back side of this map, as I flip it over, it's got the same thing: featured symbols, points of interest. It's got fishing spots on it, and it's a different section of the map. Now, this section of the map over here that I'm looking at, this is up north of 147 Bridge. And if you're familiar with Sam Rayburn, it gets pretty dicey when you start getting, past Deer Stand. You start getting up, around Shirley Creek Park, and you start getting up past Hanks Creek and areas like that. Or if you're way up there by McAllister Park, you're pretty much at the river and up there by the 103 bridge, which can be treacherous if you don't have any idea what you're doing. So that's why I tell you to go back and do research on it. But my point is, you could sit here and look at this map, and you could dissect what you want to go fish, and you can go do it still. Okay? So don't be discouraged. Don't think that just because you don't have the technology that you can't go out and be successful. I'm gonna name a pro right now that I'll let you take a guess at while I'm sitting here talking about him. The guy is still in an aluminum boat. Okay, I believe he's in like an Express or something like that, and he runs shallow 24/7. He fishes shallow 24/7, and 9 times out of 10, he doesn't even have a graph on his boat. I don't think he even has live scope. I think he does have mapping to at least get him to where he wants to go. But the angler's name is John Cox. I mean, the guy is known all over for one of the best shallow waterman fishermen out there. Other names that come up on the list, it's a local guy here, Todd Castledine. Everybody knows that he's a phenomenal at fishing vegetation shallow. Okay. And technology may help you and may be a tool to help you be successful. But guys that I just mentioned, you don't need technology to go out and be successful. Specifically if you are fishing shallow, you go and you look at what your skills are and you stay in that wheelhouse. If you're good at fishing shallow and vegetation or flipping, we'll start breaking down areas of the lake that have that type of structure that you can go fish. Stay into your wheelhouse and fish it. Be successful. Y'all know, you see me doing videos with Fishing with Rick. Fishing with Rick does never, ever, ever hardly go deep. Okay. He's gone deep, and, I just kind of gave him some advice and stuff on his graphs, and we went out one day and I showed him like, hey, here's what a brush pile looks like and stuff. But the guy is a very successful fisherman shallow, and I'm telling you all, he stays shallow year round. Now there's times that it's going to suck shallow, and there's times it's going to suck fishing deep, but stay in your wheelhouse. If you're not good at something, go do it in your off time and try to get better at it. So that way, when that time comes that you'll be more successful offshore or staying shallow, you get better at it. I'm going to use myself as a prime example. I was a deep water fisherman because I'm from Missouri originally. I traveled around a bunch in the military, and now that I'm out of the military, as a few years ago, I settled down here. Well, of course, I went out and I started fishing deep immediately because that's what I'm comfortable with. But I found out that a lot of times you can be more consistent at certain times of the year on this lake shallow because of the Florida string bass than you can deep. So I spent a good majority of my time shallow one year rather than deep because the lake was up, and that's just where the bass were. And I became a better shallow water fisherman. Okay. And I did a lot of research. I watched a lot of guys on YouTube and talked to guys and, kind of figured out how to fish a grass lake, because in Missouri, I didn't see no strands of grass. The thing that I saw was docks, rock, bluffs, clay, real mud clay points, and, our ditches and creeks, or what they call drains down here. And when I got here, man, I picked up a map. I also went and I started YouTubing stuff. Ken Smith had a really good video when I first got down here that was older, but he has this map hanging up on his wall. And he breaks down the areas of the lake that, is safe to run. And he talks about what's good in this area. So, there are guys and content creators out there that do stuff that you can find that type of information out there to help you be successful. And it's all about putting hard work in. You may have to put a little harder work in. Without the technology, you might have put more hard work in to be successful rather than some guy that's got technology. But I promise you, it's going to be a lot more rewarding than just turn on your graph and I'm going to go fish that point because it says it's good. You'll get a lot more value out of what you're doing. And I truly believe that it'd make you a better angler overall, because you know how to do the basic fundamentals of map reconnaissance and fishing. I mean, it's simple as that. So that's pretty much going to cover the video that I've got today. And I apologize that I'm not going to flip my camera and sit down and break down a map. That could be a future video if everybody's interested. But I wanted to just talk about how you would go out and utilize that map. And a lot of it comes down to looking at points of interest on the bank and referring to your map. If I see a long point that's sticking out and I know I'm midway up the lake, I'm going to use 2 or 3 reference points. Okay, well, that's that point there. That's that point there. Okay, I see that. This is where I'm at. Okay, and idle over it with your sonar. And when you see those blips down there, throw out your buoy. Okay, throw it out and start fishing. Use those techniques and fundamentals that I talked about in my first video and second video, mainly second video, of how to set up, and start fishing. And don't get discouraged. Nobody is good at anything the very first time they try something. They might be naturals at stuff, but you'll get better and better the more practice you do. And in this industry, the more time you spend on the water, the better you're going to be. That's just fact. If you take technology away from everybody, the guys that were used to doing it old school or have a feel for going out and doing what we just talked about will be more successful because they've already been exposed to something like this. If I go out and I take a bunch of guys, girls, kids, electronics away, and I'm like, go find fish, they're going to fail. Most of them will. Most of them will fail because they don't know how to do it old school. So it's something like I said, don't forget about doing it old school. When you're out there, don't let your technology be a crutch for you. Always ask yourself why these fish are here and what they're doing and what they're relating to. And why am I catching them just like this? Ask yourself that every time. If you want to be a better angler and catch more fish, you got to start giving yourself constructive criticism all the time. There's times you need to just go out, though, and just have fun, for real. Like, those are some of the best times. Just go out and just go fish, okay? So I hope this helps everybody. And once again, thank you so much for subscribing and everybody giving me the love I've been getting lately on all my social media platforms. Thank you so much for that. A lot of work goes into making all this content, and I do it for you guys and girls, okay? Because I know I have women following my page too. I do this stuff to go out to help you be a better angler and catch more fish. So I thank you all so much for your support. It goes a long ways. And without further ado, as always, God bless you and God bless the United States of America. Until next time, Marler.